you'll have the indicators as to whether or not you compete. The reality is that less than 1%, 0.8% of the high school population are considered blue chips that will play at the top programs. That's 0.8 of 1%. So the other 99+% are really more suited toward the 1AAs, Division IIs, Division IIIs. But the problem is those programs don't get publicized. Most families aren't aware of those types of programs. Great education.
Money's available?
Money's available. Compete for conference and national championships. You can become decorated and All-American. You've got a chance to make your mark, but a lot of people just aren't aware of those.
Is that what you can get hired for? Is to say, look, there are some other options, and let me take you through that process. Give me an example. Let's say we have a kid who's a very good baseball player, certainly not an ACC or an SEC player. Do you help those parents understand, here's how you go about this process at this point?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we try to help them realize that their son or daughter is in the scholarship business. It's their talent, their grades, and their character that determine if a college coach wants to make an investment and bring them into their family. Our goal is to make sure that they have the menu of choices to consider where that can take place.
How do you get your kid noticed by some of those schools?
We take a proactive approach. We actually build a profile that highlights what a young adult has done throughout their high school career, and we literally put it in front of every college coach in North America. And the nice thing about recruiting is there's a finite number of schools. You know, if you're looking for a spouse or a car or a home, it's impossible to walk through everyone or date everyone or test drive everyone. In college,
although let me tell you something, for a couple of years I tried, brother.
How'd you do?
I did okay.
Pretty good, yeah.
But there is a finite number of colleges, so I think the peace of mind for the parent is that we can tap every door, we can look at every possibility and determine where the right fit is.
You know, a lot of people don't even know about half scholarships either.
No. Well, this is real.
In baseball, you know, it's not everybody's on a full ride.
Here's the technical jargon. There's two types of scholarships in college. One's called a head count scholarship sport, and the other one's called an equivalency scholarship sport. Football and basketball for men are head count sports at Division I. That means full ride or nothing. That's really good news if your son plays football or basketball. All other men's sports are called equivalency, which means they put together a package, which is a combination of partial athletic, partial academic, need-based money, other school-specific money. You could get a full ride in a non-revenue sport, but that coach has a much smaller budget and would have less to work with to recruit other talented prospects and have a deep bench.
When you put this package together, are you creating DVDs? Are you creating a resume of sorts to send? Are you setting up actual meetings with the school? What are you doing? What are you getting paid for, essentially?
There's three things that we do. The first thing we want to do with our families is educate them. Like anything in life, if you don't know how to play the game, your chance of winning are pretty slim. And sadly, you know, high schools don't teach recruiting class. This is a very foreign subject to every family going through it for the first and only time in their life.
There aren't even a lot of real counselors anymore in high school for the academic side, let alone for something like this.
Correct. They're more maintenance, just try to get them in, get them out. So who's forecasting and casting vision? So we spend time up front, upwards to 3 hours with the family, and literally lay out how recruiting works, all the different things they need to be aware of, and how it's going to unfold going forward. And the second thing we'll do is we'll take that proactive approach. If we determine that we could work with that individual, if they qualify, and we're very big on character. I mean, you know, you hear today in the media all these guys making poor decisions and some of the things that they're doing. I mean, college coaches are not in the business of babysitting. The last thing they want to do is recruit a virus that's going to affect their program, you know, in a very negative way. So we really want to instill the virtues and values that when you go to college and you're recruited, it's an honor, it's a privilege. And you need to be aware of that and handle yourself accordingly. So we'll take a proactive approach. If they've got great character, they need to be eligible academically, obviously very important. And the minimums, and this is really kind of sad to even say this, but to play Division I, you need a 2.5 GPA in your core courses, an 820 SAT or a 17 ACT. That will get you in as a minimum. Now, that doesn't mean if you just have that, you'll get recruited. Obviously, the better your grades, the more your opportunities. To compete Division II, 2.0 GPA. Now, in high school, if you breathe, you should be able to achieve that, right? But some struggle. Yeah. Some really struggle with that. So they've got to have the grades, and certainly the talent and the character's got to be there. We will take all they've done, awards, honors, stats, accomplishments, height, weight, strength, and speed, and we'll literally take that proactive approach. We build that profile, and we've built the databases and the networks over the last 14 years to have these relationships with the coaches.
And this could be a kid who's a diver. This could be a kid who's running cross country.
All sports.
This could be across the board. But so there's scholarships out there for everything. And there's schools out there for everything.
Absolutely. There's a place out there. If you're realistic, I mean, you've got Division III and NAIA programs, and again, that doesn't meet the wow factor for a lot
How
of
many times you told the dad, bro, that ain't happening. You're not going to an ACC, SEC, Conference USA. You could go here. How often do you have to tell dad something they don't want to hear?
Well, I don't take quite that hard line because I'm not the one ultimately making the decision. The college coach determines if a son or daughter is good enough to play at that level.
But if your kid hasn't gotten any correspondence, if there's not one
That's a
letter
good
from him,
indicator.
that's kind of
That's a good indicator.
Exactly.
You're not a blue chip prospect.
Right.
404-233-7979 if you want to get aboard, and we'll take...
Let me tell you something. If you're a father right now, you're a mother right now listening, and if you want to understand the game, and it is a game, how to unearth the athletic and maybe the partial academic scholarship, if you don't get on the phone and actually ask a couple of questions, you're not really playing the game the right way.
Well, you have a chance right now to garner some information.
And I'm a cynic, by the way. I'm a full-blown cynic when it comes to a lot of this stuff because I get nervous. You know, what is this? Is this like one of those go to the mall and become a model? Go to the mall and be an actor? This is money. This is tangible. You touch it, you feel it, and people end up in college because of it.
Mike Gilliam is here with us. How to get your kids into school, what's the right school, what scholarships are out there. Do you have to be a one-sport commitment, at what age, and how many different sports from wrestling to cross-country to swimming to everything else are available. We'll take calls from dads, 404-233-7979. What about the burnout factor as well? How much do you have to be wary of that? Mike does a fabulous job. We'll let you know more about him and get in touch with him when we come back. So dads, will open the phone lines to you. Lots more in the National Football League. Rough night for the Braves. And Dan Radakovich, 9 o'clock in studio, answers some tough questions. It's all part of Mayhem, home of the Falcons, 7-9 of the Zone. And we're staying on television right here. You don't need the headphones.
Okay.
We'll just stay on the TV end of things.
Okay.
So what about the economics now? How much more pressure do parents feel to say, look, I don't know if I can afford...
Yeah.
You know, we have a friend who his kid's given up soccer to become a kicker because that is, he feels, the best chance he has.
To me, that's a mistake because kicking, in general football, walk on. They don't spend money on a kicker coming out of high school unless you are a phenom, where you're hitting 50-plus yards consistently, knocking...
They'll grab a soccer player sometimes.
They'll bring in about 7 of those guys, right, and let them decide who's going to be their guy.
Or they'll give the scholarship the second year in, the third
That's
year
exactly right.
Yeah.
But in soccer, you get money coming out of the gate from high school. So you can get out of college a little bit more debt-free because there's no guarantee that even after your first year that you get a scholarship for football.
I would think the biggest thing for me is how do you, and it's no guarantees and there's no assurances, there's nothing that's a definitive, but the idea that socially, emotionally, the kid's going to be able to handle what college is, getting out of the house and everything else. Parents, I think, have got to be more realistic. This is a big thing.
Exactly. That goes to the third point you were asking about. I really didn't address, but it's really the guidance as they're getting recruited and preparing them for college. That's where I spend the bulk of my time, getting them ramped up to make a seamless transition from high school to college. As a former athlete and coach myself, I wish somebody would have talked with me when I was at
The washout factor is academic and social, usually much more than it is athletic.
Absolutely, yeah. And the sad thing is, when a kid leaves, they were there on scholarship and they left after first year, they come back and tell horror stories. Which is really because, and they deter kids because they go, oh, it's a lot of work. They never say, hey, look, I was a little bit lazy, I was a little bit immature, I should have been more responsible. It's always the coach, and I didn't play. And
when you see the University of Georgia that have had some issues, we'll come back and talk about it, but are you surprised, you know, they've lost Ely and lost Caleb King and they lost Benedict and all blue chip type players. Does that surprise you?
They know what they're getting before those guys come. There's no mystery there. These aren't rock-solid citizens with outstanding communication skills and work ethics. They're very blessed naturally with athleticism. And that's only a piece of the puzzle.
We'll come back on CSS here, talk to Mike Gilliam.
Southern Golf Weekly on CSS. Everything the Southern golfer needs to know. Join Brian and Danny as they highlight professional golf around the South and the nation. Plus, bring you the best tips on improving your own game. Southern Golf Weekly, Tuesdays at 5:30 and 10:30 p.m. Eastern, only on CSS.
Don't miss Hook the Future, as host Don Dingman teaches kids the basics of fishing and takes a fresh crew of youngsters on a new adventure each week. Saturday mornings at 9:30 Eastern on CSS.